My mother-in-law used her emergency key to move her things into our guest room while we were on our honeymoon. We returned from Bali to find her makeup scattered across the bathroom counter, her clothes hanging in the closet, and her orthopedic pillow on the bed. The guest room we'd just finished painting, the room that was supposed to become a nursery someday. Just temporary, she said cheerfully when we confronted her, not even looking up from arranging her prescription bottles on our kitchen table. My condo flooded. You wouldn't want me in a hotel, would you? The flood was real. I'd seen the photos. But her sister lived 20 minutes away with a spare bedroom. My parents had offered their guest house. She had options. She chose us. Week 1, I tried being understanding. Flooded homes are traumatic. Insurance paperwork takes time. But Diane wasn't looking at apartments or calling contractors. She was reorganizing our kitchen, rearranging our furniture, and asking when we'd be giving her grandchildren. My eggs are still fresh from the honeymoon, I joked to my husband Trevor one night. He didn't laugh. She'll be gone soon, he promised. Just be patient. Week 3, Diane started cooking dinner every night. Sounds nice until you realize she'd throw out the groceries I'd bought, insisting her recipes were better. She'd wait up for Trevor to come home from work, patting the couch beside her like he was still 12. One evening, I found her in our bedroom, holding the lingerie I'd bought for the honeymoon. These seem awfully impractical, she said, shaking her head. No wonder you're not pregnant yet. Get out, I said quietly. Excuse me? Get out of my bedroom. She clutched her chest like I'd struck her. I was just trying to help you understand what Trevor really likes. That night, I told Trevor she needed to leave. He sighed, exhausted. Where's she going to go? Her place won't be ready for another month. Your aunts, my parents, a hotel. I don't care. You're being unreasonable, he said. She's my mother. Something in his voice made my blood run cold. She's my mother. Not, I know this is hard. Not, let me talk to her. Just automatic defense. The next morning, I called my dad. By noon, I'd moved my essentials into my childhood bedroom. I texted Trevor, I'm staying at my parents until your mother leaves. Not negotiable. His response came an hour later. You're really going to abandon our marriage over this? Abandon. As if I'd left him. Not his mother's invasion. Day 4 at my parents' house. Trevor's sister called me. I heard you moved out, she said carefully. Look, I need to tell you something about Diane. She did this to me too. Moved in right after our wedding. Stayed for 11 months. By the end, my husband couldn't make a decision without checking with her first. We're divorced now. My stomach dropped. Why didn't you warn me? Would you have believed me? Or would Trevor have convinced you I was just bitter? I thought about the past 3 weeks. How Trevor had started asking his mother's opinion on everything from what groceries to buy to which car insurance we should switch to. How he'd stopped kissing me goodnight, but never missed his mother's forehead kiss before bed. What do I do? I whispered. You set a boundary, right now, or you'll spend your marriage coming in second place. That night, I drove home. Diane was watching TV in our living room, feet up on our coffee table. Trevor was beside her, scrolling his phone. We need to talk, I said. Diane stood up. Oh, good. You've come to apologize. Sit down, I told her. My voice didn't shake. You're leaving tomorrow. I've called your sister. You're staying with her. Trevor? Diane turned to her son, eyes wide with betrayal. He looked between us, trapped. Choose, I said to him, heart pounding hard. Right now, me or her. The silence stretched for 15 seconds. I counted. Trevor's face went pale. This is insane, he said. You can't make me choose between my wife and my mother. I'm not making you choose, I said. I'm telling you the reality. Either she leaves tomorrow, or I file for divorce on Monday. Diane gasped. Actually gasped. Hand to chest. The whole performance. You would threaten divorce over me staying here temporarily? Trevor, do you hear this? Mom, Trevor said, but his voice was weak. I raised you better than this, Diane continued. I raised you to respect family, to take care of your mother when she needs you. Your mother has a sister with a 4-bedroom house, I said. She has friends. She has resources. What she doesn't have is the right to live in my home without my consent. Trevor stood up. Can we talk about this privately? No, I said, because every private conversation we've had about this has ended with you promising she'll leave soon. It's been 3 weeks. Her condo repairs were estimated at 2 weeks maximum. I called her insurance company. His eyes widened. You did what? I called her insurance company, pretended to be her. The repairs were finished 5 days ago. The place has been ready for her to move back for almost a week. The room went dead silent. Diane's face transformed. The helpless mother act vanished. You had no right to do that. And you had no right to lie, I said. Your condo is ready. You've been staying here because you want to, not because you need to. Trevor turned to his mother. Is that true? I was going to tell you, Diane said quickly. I thought maybe we could discuss me staying here permanently. You have the space. I'm getting older. I shouldn't be living alone. There it was. The real plan. Did you even ask us? Trevor said, and for the first time I heard doubt in his voice. I was going to, Diane said, but she's been so hostile from the start. I knew she'd say no. Because it's insane, I said. You're 58 years old. You're healthy. You have your own home. You don't need to live with us. I'm his mother, Diane said, voice rising. I gave birth to him. I raised him alone after his father died. You deserve respect. I interrupted. You deserve visits and family dinners and phone calls. You don't deserve to take over our home without asking. Trevor sat back down, head in his hands. Trevor, Diane said, softer now. Honey, you understand, don't you? After your father died, it was just us. We've always taken care of each other. And there it was. The manipulation I'd been watching for weeks. Using his dead father as leverage. Your father died when Trevor was 17, I said quietly. 11 years ago. He's not a child anymore. I know that, Diane snapped. Do you? I asked. Because you still pat the couch for him to sit beside you. You still call him honey and sweetie like he's 12. You still make all his favorite childhood meals and talk about how close you two have always been. What's wrong with being close to my son? Nothing, I said. Until it becomes enmeshment. Until he can't make a decision without checking with you first. Until his wife comes second. Trevor's head came up. That's not... It is, I said, and my voice cracked. Trevor, you asked your mother which car insurance we should get. You asked her opinion on what color we should paint the bathroom. You told her about our plans to try for a baby before you told me you were ready. His face went red. You told her? I said. About us trying for a baby? She asked. He said weakly. She's been asking me every day when we're giving her grandchildren. I said. I thought it was just her being pushy. I didn't realize you two had actually discussed it. Diane smiled. Of course we discussed it. I'm going to be a grandmother. I have a right to. You have no rights to our reproductive choices. I said, voice hard. None. That's between me and Trevor, not you. I'm just excited, Diane said, but her eyes had gone cold. You told her we were waiting, I said to Trevor. Didn't you? You told her I wanted to wait another year. He didn't answer. And she's been on my case ever since, I said, asking when we'll give her grandchildren, making comments about my age, about my eggs, about how I should hurry up before it's too late. I'm just concerned, Diane said. You're manipulating, I said. And it stops now. I turned back to Trevor. I'm going to bed. When I wake up tomorrow morning, your mother needs to be gone. If she's still here, I'm packing my things and going back to my parents' house. And I'm not coming back. You can't just... Diane started. I can, I said. This is my house too. I pay half the mortgage. I have just as much say as Trevor does. And I say you leave. I walked to our bedroom and locked the door. I didn't sleep. I heard them talking in low voices for hours. At one point, Diane's voice rose, and Trevor hushed her. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. The guest room door closed. At 6 a.m., I heard movement, suitcases being zipped, the front door opening and closing, a car starting. I waited another hour before unlocking the bedroom door. The house was quiet. Trevor sat at the kitchen table, coffee mug in his hands, looking like he hadn't slept either. She's gone, he said. Good. She's staying with my aunt. For now. Okay. She's really upset. I imagine so. He looked up at me. That was brutal. What you said to her. It was honest. You made her sound like some kind of villain. She lied about her condo being ready, I said. She threw out my groceries. She went through my underwear drawer. She tried to control when we have children. What would you call that? She's just... He trailed off. Overbearing? Controlling? Boundary crossing? She's lonely, he said. Since Dad died, she's been alone. I'm all she has. That's not your fault, I said. And it's not your responsibility to fill the void your father left. I know that. Do you? He stood up, angry now. What do you want me to say? That my mother is a terrible person? That she's been trying to ruin our marriage? I want you to say that you see what she's been doing, I said. I want you to say that you understand why I couldn't live like that. I get that it was hard. Hard? I laughed, and it came out bitter. Trevor, I moved out. I left our home because your mother made it uninhabitable, and you didn't even try to stop her. I thought you were overreacting, because she told you I was. He flinched. Every time I complained to you, I said, you'd talk to her, and she'd tell you I was being dramatic, being unreasonable, being jealous of your relationship, and you believed her. She's my mother, and I'm your wife, I said. When did that start meaning less? He didn't answer. I poured myself coffee, hands shaking. Your sister told me something about what happened with her marriage. What? That your mother did the same thing to her. Moved in after her wedding. Stayed for 11 months. Convinced her husband to check every decision with her first. They're divorced now. Trevor's face went white. Olivia told you that? She wanted to warn me, I said. She said she didn't warn me before because she knew you'd convince me she was just bitter. That was different, Trevor said. Olivia's husband was an alcoholic. Mom was trying to help. Or maybe, I said, your mother saw a marriage she could control, and she took the opportunity. That's a horrible thing to say. Is it? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like a pattern. She moves in, she takes over, she drives a wedge between the couple, and when it falls apart, she gets to keep her son all to herself. You think my mother sabotaged Olivia's marriage? I think your mother doesn't want to share you, I said. I think she's been alone since your father died. And instead of building her own life, she's tried to live through you. Trevor sat back down heavily. I talked to a therapist, I said, while I was at my parents' house, about enmeshment, about emotional incest. His head snapped up. What? Emotional incest, I repeated. When a parent treats their child like a partner, confides in them inappropriately, depends on them for emotional support that should come from other adults, makes them feel responsible for the parent's happiness. That's not... You told me once that after your dad died, your mother would come sleep in your bed because she was too sad to be alone. You were 17. She was grieving. She was putting you in the position of being her emotional husband, I said. You were a kid. You shouldn't have been responsible for comforting your mother through her grief. What was I supposed to do? Let her cry alone? Yes, I said. Or she should have gone to therapy, or leaned on her friends, or her sister. Not her teenage son. Trevor's hands were shaking now. You told me that she'd call you at college every night, I continued. Sometimes multiple times a day. That she'd cry if you didn't answer. That you felt guilty for being away at school because she was alone. She needed me. She was guilting you, I said, making you feel responsible for her emotional well-being. That's not healthy. That's manipulation. Stop, Trevor said. Just stop. I can't, I said, because this is our marriage. And if we don't talk about this now, we're going to end up like Olivia and her husband, divorced, because your mother will always come first. That's not fair, isn't it? I asked. Last night, when I asked you to choose, you hesitated. You actually hesitated. It's not that simple. It is that simple, I said. When you get married, your spouse becomes your primary family. Your parents become secondary. That's how it works. That's how healthy marriages work. I can't just abandon my mother. I'm not asking you to, I said. I'm asking you to set boundaries, to put our marriage first, to stop letting her control our lives. He stared into his coffee. Your mother has her own life, I said. Her own home, her own friends. She doesn't need to live with us. She doesn't need to be involved in every decision we make. She doesn't need daily updates on our marriage, our plans, our lives. She's going to be upset if I pull back. Probably, I said. And that's okay. Her being upset doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something different than what she wants. Trevor was quiet for a long time. I don't know how to do this, he finally said. Do what? Set boundaries with her. She'll cry. She'll say I'm abandoning her, that I don't love her anymore. And you'll tell her that's not true, I said. That you love her but you're married now. That your priorities have changed. That she needs to respect your marriage. She won't like that. She doesn't have to, I said. This isn't about making her happy. This is about building a healthy relationship with her. One where she's your mother, not your partner. He looked up at me, eyes red. I'm sorry, he said. I should have stood up for you sooner. Yeah, I said. You should have. I didn't see it. What she was doing. I know. She's always been like this, he said. After Dad died, it was just the two of us. She'd tell me everything. About her day, about her problems, about her loneliness. I thought I was being a good son by listening. You were being a parentified child, I said. And that wasn't your fault. You were just doing what you thought you had to do. But I'm an adult now, he said. I should have recognized. Yes, I said. You should have. But we're here now, and we can either fix this, or we can let it destroy us. He reached for my hand. I choose you. You hesitated, I said, pulling back. Last night, when I asked you to choose, you hesitated. I was shocked. I didn't know what to say. You should have said my wife immediately, I said. Without thinking, without hesitating. That's what married people do. I'm sorry. I know, I said. But sorry isn't enough. I need to see change. Real change. What do you want me to do? Therapy, I said. Both of us. Together. And you. Individually. To work through the enmeshment issues. Okay. And boundaries with your mother, I said. Real boundaries. No more daily phone calls. No more discussing our private life with her. No more asking her opinion on our decisions. She'll think I hate her. Then you'll have to live with that, I said. Because the alternative is losing your marriage. He nodded slowly. And if she ever uses her emergency key again, I said, I'm changing the locks. That key is for emergencies only, not for letting herself in whenever she wants. I'll get it back from her. Good. We sat in silence, drinking coffee, exhausted. I love you, Trevor said. I know I didn't show it these past few weeks, but I do. I love you too, I said. But love isn't enough if you're not willing to prioritize our marriage. I will, he said. I promise. I'm going to hold you to that. The next week was hard. Trevor called his mother to set boundaries. She cried, just like he'd predicted. Said he was choosing his wife over his own mother, that she'd sacrificed everything for him after his father died, and this was how he repaid her. I'm not choosing between you, he told her, with me sitting beside him on speaker. I'm setting healthy boundaries. I'm married now. My wife comes first. That's how it should be. She's turning you against me, Diane said, voice cold. No one's turning me against anyone, Trevor said. I'm making my own decisions. This is her idea, Diane insisted. She's controlling you. Diane, I said, speaking for the first time. Trevor is an adult. He's capable of making his own decisions. You stay out of this, Diane snapped. This is between me and my son. No, Trevor said firmly. This involves all of us. And you need to accept that I'm setting boundaries. What kind of boundaries? Phone calls twice a week, Trevor said. Sunday evenings and Wednesday afternoons. No more daily check-ins. You can't be serious. And no more discussing our private life, Trevor continued. No questions about when we're having kids. No comments about our finances or our decisions. That's between us. I'm your mother. I have a right. You don't, Trevor said. You have the right to be treated with respect. You don't have the right to control our lives. Diane went quiet. And the emergency key, Trevor said. I need it back. What if there's an emergency? Then you call 911 like everyone else, Trevor said. You're really going to do this to me? Diane asked, voice shaking. After everything I've done for you? I'm not doing anything to you, Trevor said. I'm setting healthy boundaries so we can have a good relationship. This isn't a good relationship, Diane said. This is you pushing me away. If you can't accept these boundaries, Trevor said, then we'll need to take some space. No contact for a month while you adjust. A month? Diane's voice rose. You want to cut off contact with your own mother for a month? Only if you can't respect the boundaries, Trevor said. This is your choice. The line went dead. She'd hung up. Trevor looked at me, face pale. That was harder than I thought. I'm proud of you, I said. She's going to hate me. Maybe for a while, I said. But eventually she'll either accept the boundaries or she won't. Either way, you did the right thing. 2 days later, Diane's sister called. I don't know what you said to Diane, she said. But she's been crying nonstop. She says Trevor's cutting her out of his life. That's not what's happening, I said. We're setting boundaries. She says you're controlling him. We're married, I said. We make decisions together. That's how marriage works. Trevor's aunt sighed. Look, I know Diane can be a lot. She did the same thing to Olivia. Moved in, took over, drove them apart. I kept my mouth shut because she's my sister, but I was glad when you made her leave. Why didn't you say something before? I asked. Would you have believed me? Or would Diane have convinced you I was jealous? Same thing Olivia had said. Diane has always been this way, her sister continued. Even before her husband died, she wanted to be the center of attention, the most important person in Trevor's life. When he got engaged to you, she was furious. She called me crying, saying you were stealing her son. My stomach turned. She said that? She'd been planning to move in with him after the wedding, his aunt said. She thought it was natural, that you two would live together, and she'd be part of your household. She was shocked when he said no. She asked him? Before he proposed to you, his aunt said. She told him that when he got married, she expected to live with him and his wife, that it was normal in many cultures for parents to live with their adult children. What did Trevor say? He said he'd have to ask you first, his aunt said. Diane took that as a maybe. That's why she was so upset when you two bought a house without a mother-in-law suite. I remember that argument. We'd looked at a house with a separate entrance and small apartment attached. Diane had loved it. Trevor had been weirdly insistent we see it. I'd said no, I didn't want to be landlords. Now I understood. It wasn't about being landlords. It was about Diane moving in. Thank you for telling me, I said. Diane needs to learn that she can't control everyone, his aunt said. Maybe this will be good for her. Teach her to build her own life instead of living through her son. Maybe. And if she doesn't learn, his aunt said, then at least you'll have clear boundaries. Some people never change. You just have to decide what you're willing to tolerate. That conversation stuck with me. The idea that Diane had been planning this from the beginning, that the flood had been an opportunity, not a crisis. I called the insurance company again. This time I asked different questions. The flood had been real, but minor, minimal damage. The repairs were covered and completed within 10 days. The place had been habitable for 2 weeks before Diane had moved into our guest room. She'd lied from the start. I showed Trevor the documentation. He stared at it for a long time. She planned this, he said. Yes. She waited until we were gone on our honeymoon, used the emergency key, moved in while we couldn't stop her. Yes. And then she lied about how long repairs would take. Yes. He looked up at me, eyes filled with something I couldn't quite read. Betrayal, maybe. Or grief. My mother is manipulative. Yes. I didn't want to see it. I know. She raised me to think this was normal, he said. That we were just close. That it was healthy for a mother and son to be best friends. It's not your fault, I said. You were conditioned to accept this. But I'm an adult now, he said. I should have recognized it. You're recognizing it now, I said. That's what matters. He pulled me close. I'm sorry for not believing you, for making you move out, for hesitating when you asked me to choose. I know. I'm going to do better. I believe you. We started therapy the next week. Both couples counseling and individual sessions for Trevor. The therapist confirmed what I'd researched. Emotional enmeshment, parentification, codependency. Trevor had been trained since childhood to be responsible for his mother's happiness. She used to tell me I was the man of the house after Dad died, Trevor said in one session, that I needed to take care of her, that it was just the two of us against the world. How did that make you feel? The therapist asked. Proud, Trevor said. Like I was important, like I had a purpose. And scared, he added after a moment. Because I was 17. I didn't know how to take care of anyone. That's a lot of pressure for a teenager, the therapist said. I thought it meant she trusted me. She was using you, the therapist said gently. Putting adult responsibilities on a child, that's not trust. That's parentification. Trevor cried in that session, really cried, for the childhood he'd lost, for the burden he'd carried, for the realization that his mother's love had come with strings attached. Diane didn't take the boundaries well. She called Trevor's phone 37 times in one day. When he didn't answer, she showed up at his work. Security had to escort her out. She texted me, "You've stolen my son." I didn't respond. She texted again, "You're going to regret this." I screenshotted that one and saved it. She called my parents' house, crying to my mother about how I destroyed her relationship with Trevor. My mother, bless her, said, "If your son chose his wife over you, maybe you should ask yourself why." Diane showed up at our house one evening. Trevor had been prepared. He didn't let her in. They talked on the front porch while I watched from the living room window. "Why are you doing this to me?" Diane asked. "I'm not doing anything to you," Trevor said. "I'm setting boundaries. You never needed boundaries before." "Because I didn't know I was allowed to have them," Trevor said. "I'm your mother. And I love you," Trevor said. "But I'm married now. My wife is my priority. She's controlling you." "She's not," Trevor said. "I'm making my own choices. Choices I should have made years ago. You're breaking my heart." "I'm sorry you feel that way," Trevor said. "But these boundaries aren't negotiable." Diane tried a different approach. "I'm lonely, Trevor. So lonely. Can't you just call me more often? Just to talk?" "Twice a week," Trevor said. "Sundays and Wednesdays. That's the boundary. What if I need you? Then you call your sister, or your friends, or your therapist." "I'm not going to therapy." "Then you're choosing to stay stuck," Trevor said. "That's your decision. But I can't fix your loneliness. That's not my job." She stared at him. "You've changed." "I've grown up," Trevor said. "She's changed you." "No," Trevor said. "She helped me see what was wrong, but I'm the one choosing to change." Diane left without another word. Trevor came inside, shaking. "That was awful." "I know." She looked so hurt. "She's been hurting you for years," I said, "by making you responsible for her happiness. This is just the first time she's experiencing consequences. It doesn't feel good." "It's not supposed to," I said. "Growth is hard, but necessary." 3 weeks into the boundaries, Diane called Trevor on a Thursday. Not Sunday, not Wednesday. He didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Your uncle had a heart attack. He's in the hospital. I need you." Trevor listened to it, pale-faced. "I have to go. Call your aunt first," I said. "Verify it's real." He looked at me, shocked. "You think she's lying?" "I think she's desperate," I said. "And desperate people do desperate things." He called his aunt, who had no idea what he was talking about. His uncle was fine, playing golf. Trevor sat down hard on the couch. "She lied about my uncle having a heart attack to get you to call her on a non-boundary day. That's..." He couldn't finish. "Manipulative," I said. "Cruel. Wrong." He called his mother. "Uncle David is fine," he said. I called his wife. "He's playing golf." Silence on the other end. "You lied about him having a heart attack," Trevor said, "to get me to call you. I just wanted to talk to you." Diane said quietly. So you lied about a medical emergency. You won't talk to me otherwise. Because you won't respect the boundaries, Trevor said. And now you've proven that I was right to set them. This is manipulation. This is wrong. Trevor, please. I'm hanging up now, Trevor said. And I'm blocking your number for a month. When I unblock it, if you can respect the boundaries, we'll try again. If not, I'm done. You can't do this to me. I can, Trevor said. And I am. Goodbye. He hung up, blocked her number, then burst into tears. I held him while he sobbed. For his mother, for himself, for the relationship they'd never really had because she'd never let him grow up. The next month was peaceful, quiet. We had dinner together without anyone calling multiple times. We made decisions without outside input. We painted the guest room blue, preparing for the future we wanted. When the month ended, Trevor unblocked his mother's number. She called immediately. Are you ready to respect my boundaries? Trevor asked. Yes, Diane said, small voice, defeated. Twice a week. No discussing our private life. No emergency key. No unannounced visits. I understand. If you break these boundaries, Trevor said, I'll cut contact again, for longer next time. I understand, she repeated. They talked for 15 minutes. Stilted conversation. Surface level, but civil. When Trevor hung up, he looked relieved. She might actually do it. Maybe, I said. You don't sound convinced. I want to believe she'll change, I said. But people like your mother rarely change unless they get therapy. They just find new ways to manipulate. I'm keeping the boundaries regardless, Trevor said, even if she tries. Good. For 2 months, Diane behaved. She called on Sundays and Wednesdays, kept conversations light, didn't push, didn't pry. Then I got pregnant. We waited until I was 12 weeks to tell anyone. We told my parents first. They cried happy tears, hugged us both, and immediately started planning a nursery renovation in their guest room for visits. We told Trevor's sister Olivia next. She was thrilled. I'm so happy for you, she said, and I'm glad you set boundaries with Mom first. She would have made this pregnancy hell. Then came the hard part, telling Diane. Trevor called her on a Sunday, put her on speaker. Mom, I have news, Trevor said. We're having a baby. She's 12 weeks along. Silence. Then, 12 weeks? You waited 12 weeks to tell me? We wanted to wait until we were past the first trimester, Trevor said. I'm the grandmother, Diane said, voice rising. I should have been the first to know. Our parents were the first to know, Trevor said. I'm your mother. And you're the third person we told, Trevor said, right after both sets of parents. I should have been first, Diane said, before anyone. That's not how we chose to do it, Trevor said. When is she due? Diane asked, switching tactics. November. I'll move in before the due date, Diane said, to help with the baby. New mothers need their mother-in-law there for support. My blood ran cold. No, Trevor said firmly. You won't be moving in, but you'll need help. We'll figure it out, Trevor said. Just us. That's ridiculous. I can help with night feedings, cooking, cleaning. No, Trevor repeated. We appreciate the offer, but we want to do this as a family. Just the 3 of us. I'm family, Diane said, voice hard now. You're extended family, Trevor said. You can visit, but you're not living here. You're making a mistake. It's our mistake to make, Trevor said. She's controlling you again, Diane said. She doesn't want me around the baby. This was my decision, Trevor said. Not hers, mine. I don't believe that. Believe what you want, Trevor said. But the decision stands. You're not moving in. Diane started crying. I just want to be a grandmother, to know my grandchild. You're going to keep me away. We're not keeping you away, Trevor said. You can visit. You can babysit. You can be as involved as you want, within our boundaries. But you're not living here. This isn't fair. Life isn't fair, Trevor said. But these are our boundaries. Accept them or don't. Your choice. She hung up on him. That went well, I said dryly. She'll get over it, Trevor said. But he didn't sound convinced. She didn't get over it. Diane started a campaign. She called Trevor's aunt, his sister, my parents, our friends, told everyone that I was keeping her from her grandchild, that I was controlling Trevor, that she was being unfairly excluded from the pregnancy. Most people saw through it. My mother told her to stop calling. Trevor's aunt told her she was embarrassing herself. Olivia blocked her number. But some people believed her. Trevor's cousin called, concerned. Is everything okay? Mom said you're not letting Diane see the baby. That's not true, Trevor said. We're just not letting her move in. Oh, his cousin said. That's, wow. She's telling everyone you're cutting her out completely. She's lying. I figured, his cousin said. She did the same thing with Olivia. But other people are believing her. Great. Now we had to deal with extended family thinking we were cruel. Trevor posted on social media. A simple statement. We're excited about our growing family. My mother is welcome to visit and be involved within healthy boundaries. Anyone who claims otherwise is spreading misinformation. Diane lost her mind. Called him immediately. Boundaries forgotten. How dare you call me a liar publicly, she said. You are a liar, Trevor said calmly. You told people we're cutting you out. That's not true. You won't let me live with you. That's a boundary, not cutting you out, Trevor said. You're welcome to visit. To be a grandmother. Just not to live here. It's the same thing. It's really not. She hung up again. The harassment got worse. She started driving by our house. Sometimes she'd sit in her car outside just watching. Trevor called the police for a wellness check. They talked to her, told her to stop. She cried, told them she was worried about her pregnant daughter-in-law, just wanted to make sure we were okay. The police officer looked at Trevor. Is your mother a danger to anyone? Not physically, Trevor said, but she's not respecting our boundaries. Tell her to stop coming by, the officer said. If she continues, you can file for a restraining order. Trevor told her. She cried, said he was treating her like a criminal, that she'd never felt so betrayed. Then stop driving by our house, Trevor said. Respect our boundaries. She didn't drive by again, but she found other ways. She sent gifts, baby clothes, toys, books. all sent to our house with notes. For my grandbaby. Love, Grandma. Trevor donated everything to charity. She tried joining my prenatal yoga class. The instructor called me, uncomfortable. Someone claiming to be the baby's grandmother signed up. She said you invited her? I didn't. I said, please don't let her in. I won't, the instructor said, but she seemed very insistent. She tried friending my coworkers on social media, tried joining the new moms group I'd found online, tried calling my obstetrician to get information about the pregnancy. HIPAA laws prevented that last one, thankfully. She's escalating, our therapist said. This is common when strong boundaries are set with someone who's never experienced them before. She's testing to see if you'll break. We won't, Trevor said. Good, the therapist said, because if you break once, she'll know she can keep pushing. I was 28 weeks pregnant when Diane showed up at my office. My coworker came to my desk. There's a woman in the lobby asking for you. Says she's your mother-in-law? My heart sank. Tell her I'm in a meeting. She says she'll wait. I called Trevor. Your mother is at my office. I'm coming, he said. Trevor, you're an hour away. I'm coming, he repeated. Don't go down there. Stay in your office. Lock the door if you have to. I locked my office door. Watched the clock. My coworker texted. She's still waiting. She's been asking questions about you, about the pregnancy. I didn't tell her anything. 45 minutes later, Trevor arrived. I watched from my office window as he approached his mother in the parking lot. They argued. I couldn't hear words, but I saw gestures. Diane crying. Trevor standing firm. Finally, she got in her car and drove away. Trevor came up to my office. I'm sorry, he said. She won't do that again. What did you say to her? That if she ever shows up at your work again, I'm filing for a restraining order. That this is harassment. That she needs to respect our boundaries or lose all access to us and the baby. What did she say? That I'm being cruel, Trevor said. That she just wanted to see you, to make sure you were eating right and resting enough. She wanted to control me, I said. I know. My boss called me in the next day. I don't want to pry, she said carefully. But if you're dealing with family issues that might impact your safety at work, I need to know. I explained the situation. Boundaries, harassment, everything. If she shows up again, my boss said, we'll call security immediately, and the police if necessary. You shouldn't have to deal with this while pregnant. Thank you. Also, my boss said, when you go on maternity leave, I'll make sure the front desk knows not to give out any information about you, not even to confirm you work here. Thank you, I said again, nearly crying. At 32 weeks, we had a scare. Early contractions. The doctor put me on bed rest for 2 weeks. Trevor worked from home to take care of me. Diane somehow found out, probably called the hospital pretending to be me again. She showed up at our house with groceries and cleaning supplies. Trevor answered the door. You can't be here. You need help, Diane said, pushing past him. She's on bed rest. You're working. Who's taking care of things? We are, Trevor said. Let me just get out, Trevor said. Now. Diane looked past him to where I was lying on the couch. Sweetheart, you need someone to take care of you. Trevor can't do it all. My mother is coming tomorrow, I called out. We have help. I'm the grandmother, Diane said. I should be helping. You should be respecting our boundaries, Trevor said, which means leaving. Now. Trevor, please. I'm calling the police, Trevor said, pulling out his phone. If you're not gone in 30 seconds, I'm filing a report for harassment and trespassing. Diane stared at him. You would really call the police on your own mother? Try me. She left. Trevor filed for a restraining order the next day. Temporary protection order while the court date was scheduled. Diane was served papers at work. She called Trevor, screaming, a restraining order? Against your own mother? You wouldn't respect our boundaries, Trevor said. You showed up at my wife's work, at our home after being told not to. You're harassing us. I was trying to help. Help would be respecting what we've asked for, Trevor said. This is harassment. It stops now. The court date was set for 2 weeks later. We hired a lawyer, documented everything, the drive-bys, the showing up at my work, the attempts to access my medical records, the unwanted gifts, the harassment of our friends and family. Diane hired a lawyer too, showed up to court in black, like she was in mourning. The judge reviewed the evidence. Mrs. Diane, he said, can you explain why you went to your daughter-in-law's workplace after being asked not to contact her? I wanted to see her, Diane said, to make sure she was okay. She's pregnant with my grandchild. And when they asked you to stop driving by their house, I was just checking on them. And when they asked you not to send gifts? I'm the grandmother. I should be able to send gifts to my grandchild. The judge looked at her over his glasses. Ma'am, when someone sets a boundary, you respect it. You don't get to decide what boundaries are reasonable. The people setting them do. But I'm granting the restraining order, the judge said. 1 year. No contact with the petitioners unless they initiate it. No going within 500 feet of their home or workplaces. No attempts to contact them through third parties. Do you understand? Diane burst into tears. You're taking my son from me. Your son is an adult who set boundaries. The judge said. You refuse to respect them. This is the consequence. Court adjourned. Diane tried to approach Trevor in the hallway. Her lawyer stopped her, reminded her the order was already in effect. She stood there crying as we walked away. In the car, Trevor was quiet. You okay? I asked. I just got a restraining order against my mother, he said. You protected your family, I said. It doesn't feel good. It's not supposed to, I said. But it was necessary. Our daughter was born on November 12th, 8 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect in every way. We named her Iris, after my grandmother. We didn't tell anyone for the first week. Just us, learning to be parents. Exhausted and overwhelmed and completely in love. When we finally announced her birth, we sent a group text to family. Iris Rose arrived safely. Everyone is healthy. We'll let you know when we're ready for visitors. My parents respected it. Sent congratulations, said to take our time. Trevor's aunt sent a lovely text. Congratulations. Can't wait to meet her when you're ready. Olivia sent flowers and a gift card for meal delivery. For when you're too tired to cook, Love you both. Diane didn't respond to the group text, but an hour later she showed up at the hospital. The nurse came to our room. There's a woman claiming to be the grandmother. I told her you weren't accepting visitors yet, but she's insisting. She has a restraining order, Trevor said. Call security. The nurse's eyes widened. Oh, okay. Security escorted Diane out. She was crying, making a scene, telling everyone that her son was keeping her from meeting her granddaughter. The hospital security called the police. Diane was arrested for violating the restraining order. Trevor's phone rang. His aunt. I'm at the police station with Diane. She violated the restraining order? She showed up at the hospital, Trevor said. We told her we weren't ready for visitors. Oh, Diane. His aunt sighed. Trevor, I'm sorry. I'll try to talk sense into her. Thanks, Trevor said. But I don't think it'll help. It didn't help. Diane spent a night in jail, was released with a court date for violating the order. The judge extended the restraining order to 3 years and added a clause. No contact at all, even if we initiate it. If we wanted to end the order early, we'd have to file paperwork. We didn't file paperwork. Iris was 3 months old when we got a letter from Diane's lawyer. She was suing for grandparent visitation rights. Our lawyer laughed when we showed him. She violated a restraining order, was arrested, and now wants court-ordered visitation? That's not going to go well for her. It didn't. The judge reviewed everything. The boundaries we'd set, the harassment, the restraining order violation, the arrest. Mrs. Diane, the judge said, grandparent rights exist to protect children from being cut off from loving grandparents when parents divorce or die. They don't exist to override parents' decisions about who has access to their children. But I'm her grandmother. You're a grandmother who violated a restraining order to see a newborn against her parents' wishes, the judge said. You've demonstrated a pattern of not respecting boundaries. Why would I grant you access to a child when you can't even respect her parents' basic requests? I love her. Love respects boundaries, the judge said. Petition denied. And Mrs. Diane, if you file this again, I'll consider it harassment and extend the restraining order further. Diane's lawyer looked embarrassed. Diane looked destroyed, but we were free. Iris is 2 now. Happy, healthy, thriving. She knows she has 2 grandmothers. My mother, who babysits every Friday, and Diane, who she's never met. Sometimes people ask about Trevor's mother. We say it's complicated. Most people don't push. Trevor's still in therapy, working through the guilt, the grief, the complicated feelings about cutting off his mother. Some days are harder than others. Do you think she'll ever change? He asked me once. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe. If she gets help. If she does the work. And if she does, he asked, would you ever let her back in? I thought about it. With very strict boundaries, supervised visits only, and the first time she breaks a boundary, she's out again. That's fair, Trevor said. But honestly, I said, I don't think she will change. People like her rarely do. She'd have to admit she was wrong, that she hurt people, that she needs help, and I don't think she's capable of that. Yeah, Trevor said quietly. Me neither. Last month, Diane sent a letter. Not to us, to Trevor's aunt, asking her to pass it along. The aunt called first. Diane sent a letter for you. Do you want it? What does it say? Trevor asked. I didn't read it, his aunt said. It's sealed, but she asked me to give it to you. Said it's important. Okay, Trevor said. Send it. The letter arrived a week later. Trevor held it for 3 days before opening it. It was long, 6 pages, handwritten. It started with, I've been in therapy. I sat beside Trevor while he read, watched his face change, surprise, hope, doubt. When he finished, he handed it to me. Diane's letter was something. She acknowledged that she'd been overbearing, that she'd crossed boundaries, that she'd made mistakes. But there's always a but. But I was only trying to help. But I was scared of losing my son. But I didn't understand what I was doing wrong. But you never explained it to me properly. Excuses, justifications, minimizing. She doesn't get it, I said. Parts of it sound good, Trevor said. She says she's been in therapy, that she's learning about boundaries. But she's still making excuses, I said. Still blaming us for not explaining things better. Still acting like her actions were justified because she meant well. Yeah, Trevor said. Has she apologized? I asked. Actually apologized without excuses? He read through the letter again. No, she says she's sorry I felt hurt, but not that she's sorry for what she did. Because she still doesn't think she did anything wrong, I said. Trevor crumpled the letter slowly. I wanted to believe she'd changed. I know, but she hasn't. No, I said. She's just learned therapy language. How to sound like she's self-aware without actually being self-aware. He threw the letter away. We didn't respond. Diane sent another letter a month later, this one angrier, saying we were cruel for ignoring her, that she'd done the work, gone to therapy, written that letter, and we couldn't even respond. The mask slipped, Trevor said. Yeah, he threw that letter away too. Now it's been 6 months since the last letter. Diane's been quiet. Trevor's aunt says she's dating someone, joined a book club, started volunteering at a senior center. Maybe she's actually building her own life, Trevor said. Maybe, I said. Do you think we'll ever reconcile? I don't know, I said honestly. That's up to her. If she can actually respect boundaries, if she can apologize without excuses, if she can put in the work to change, then maybe. And if she can't, then Iris grows up without a grandmother on your side, I said. And that's sad, but it's better than growing up watching her grandmother disrespect her parents. Kids learn from what they see. I don't want Iris to grow up thinking it's normal to let people cross boundaries. Then we're doing the right thing, I said. Trevor pulled me close. Thank you. For what? For seeing what I couldn't see, he said. For setting the boundary when I was too scared to. For standing firm even when it was hard. We're a team, I said. Yeah, he said. We are. Last week, Iris said her first sentence. Mama, up. We celebrated. Called my parents, called Trevor's aunt. Posted a video on social media. Diane commented, beautiful granddaughter. I wish I could be there. Trevor deleted the comment, blocked her account. She's never going to stop trying, I said. No, Trevor agreed, but she's never going to succeed either. Not until she actually changes. And if she never changes, then she chose this, Trevor said. She chose control over connection. She chose manipulation over honesty. She chose to lose us rather than respect us. That's sad. Yeah, Trevor said, it is. But here's the thing about setting boundaries with toxic people. It's not about punishment. It's not about revenge. It's not even about making them understand what they did wrong. It's about protecting yourself, your marriage, your family, your peace. Diane had every opportunity to be part of our lives, to be a grandmother, to have a relationship with her son and daughter-in-law and granddaughter. All she had to do was respect our boundaries. She couldn't do it. That's not our fault. That's not our failure. That's hers. And we're not going to sacrifice our happiness, our marriage, or our daughter's well-being just because Diane can't or won't change. Some people will call us cruel, say we're keeping a grandmother from her granddaughter, say family should forgive, say blood is thicker than water. Those people haven't lived with a mother-in-law who used her emergency key to move into their home without permission, who threw out their groceries, who went through their underwear drawer, who lied about floods and heart attacks and anything else she could think of to maintain control. Those people haven't had to get a restraining order against family, haven't been arrested for trying to see their newborn, haven't stood in a courtroom while a judge explained that love doesn't override boundaries. We did everything right. We communicated clearly. We set fair boundaries. We gave chances. We tried therapy. We offered paths to reconciliation. Diane chose not to take them. Trevor's sister called last week. How are you guys doing? Good, Trevor said. Really good. I'm glad, Olivia said. You sound lighter. I feel lighter, Trevor said. It's like, I didn't realize how much space Mom's drama was taking up in my head until it was gone. That's how I felt after my divorce, Olivia said. Like I could finally breathe. I'm sorry I didn't believe you before, Trevor said. When you tried to warn me, you weren't ready to hear it, Olivia said. I get that now. Still, I'm sorry. Just don't let Iris grow up thinking Grandma's behavior was normal, Olivia said. That's all I ask. Never, Trevor promised. We're teaching Iris about boundaries already, in age-appropriate ways, teaching her that no means no, even with family, that her body is hers, that she doesn't have to hug or kiss anyone she doesn't want to. My mother respects it. When Iris doesn't want a hug goodbye, my mom says, "That's okay. Can I have a high five instead?" And Iris lights up, happy to have the choice. That's what good grandparents do. They respect the child, the parents, the boundaries. Diane never learned that. Maybe she never will. But we're building something better for Iris. A family where boundaries are respected, where no means no, where love doesn't come with strings attached. And if that means growing up without one grandmother, so be it. She has one grandmother who loves her without conditions, who respects her parents, who shows up when invited and leaves when asked. That's enough. Trevor still has hard days when he misses his mom. Not the mom she actually is, but the mom he wishes she could be. I grieve her sometimes, he told me. Not because she's gone, but because she was never who I needed her to be. That's valid, I said. I wanted a mother who could be happy for me, he said, who could celebrate my marriage without feeling threatened by it, who could be a grandmother without trying to be a third parent. You deserve that. But I didn't get it. No, I said. You didn't. And that's not your fault. Some people are born into families that love them well. Some people have to build their own families, find their people, create the love they needed but never received. Trevor's building that now. With me, with Iris, with my parents who've adopted him as their own, with his aunt and his sister who understand boundaries and respect them. We're building something good, something healthy, something worth protecting, even if it means keeping Diane out. Iris will grow up knowing she's loved, knowing she's valued, knowing that boundaries are important and should be respected. She'll know that love isn't about control. It's about freedom, about choosing to stay, not being forced to. And maybe someday, if Diane ever does the work, we can revisit things. Can consider supervised visits with strict boundaries. Can give her one more chance. But that's a distant maybe, a far-off possibility. For now, we're happy, healthy, safe, and that's what matters. My mother-in-law used her emergency key to move into our guest room while we were on our honeymoon. It ended with a restraining order, therapy, and the healthiest boundaries I've ever set in my life. Was it worth it? Every single day. Because I'd rather have a small family that respects me than a large family that doesn't. I'd rather have peace than proximity. I'd rather have boundaries than abuse. And I'd rather teach my daughter that she deserves respect than teach her to accept whatever family dishes out. Trevor's mother chose control over connection. That was her choice. We chose peace over guilt. That was ours. And we'd make the same choice again, every single time. My sister used my credit cards to fund her wedding while I was in the hospital, so I had her arrested at the altar. I was unconscious for 6 days after the car accident. Broken ribs, collapsed lung, and a traumatic brain injury that left me in a medically induced coma. My sister Paisley had my emergency contact information and my wallet. Standard procedure when someone's admitted without family present. What wasn't standard was her decision to go shopping. I woke up to 17 missed calls from my credit card companies, fraud alerts, suspicious activity. Someone had charged $47,000 across my 3 cards in less than a week. The wedding dress alone cost $8,000, catering for 200 people, a destination venue in Napa Valley, even a horse-drawn carriage because apparently my near-death experience inspired her fairy tale dream. I knew you'd want to help, she said when I confronted her from my hospital bed, still connected to machine. You're always so generous with family. Generous. That's what she called stealing from someone in a coma. Besides, she continued, Aunt Theodora said you'd probably die anyway, so it's not like you'd need the money. I'd been supporting myself since 18 while she lived at home, collecting degrees she never used. When she got engaged to Beckham, some tech bro with family money, I figured she'd finally found her meal ticket. I didn't realize she'd already found mine. The nurses helped me contact my bank. Security footage showed her using my cards, signing my name with practiced confidence. She'd been forging my signature since high school, getting my permission slip signed when mom was too drunk to function. But this wasn't a permission slip. This was felony fraud. I hired attorney Vivian Blackwood from my tablet, explaining everything through gritted teeth and pain medication. Vivian specialized in family financial crimes and had a reputation for making white-collar criminals squirm. The timing is almost poetic, she said after reviewing the evidence. Her wedding is in 3 days. Would you like to make it memorable? I gave her permission to coordinate with Detective Reginald Morrison. They'd serve the warrant during the ceremony, after she said, "I do," but before they were pronounced married. Maximum humiliation for maximum theft. The wedding was everything my money could buy. I watched from the parking lot as guests arrived in designer gowns and Italian suits. The church bells rang as Beckham's family mingled with ours, completely unaware of what was coming. At 3:47 p.m., just as the officiant asked if anyone objected, Detective Morrison stepped into the aisle. "Paisley Westbrook, you're under arrest for identity theft and credit card fraud." Her bouquet hit the marble floor as he read her rights. Beckham stood frozen, his family's horrified gasps echoing through the sanctuary. Our father tried to intervene, but Vivian appeared with documentation proving every charge. As they led her away in handcuffs, still wearing her stolen wedding dress, she screamed at me through the church doors, "You'll pay for this!" That's when I realized something I should have seen coming. The wedding wasn't the only thing she'd been planning. 3 hours later, I was back in my hospital room when Vivian called with news that made my blood freeze. "Your sister wasn't just stealing credit card information," she said. "She filed papers to become your legal guardian while you were in the coma." The words hit me like a second collision. What does that mean? If approved, she'd have complete control over your finances, medical decisions, and estate. She claimed you had no other family capable of caring for you, and that she needed emergency powers to handle your affairs. I gripped the hospital bed rail so hard my knuckles went white. The machines around me started beeping as my heart rate spiked. She was planning to let me die. The timing suggests that, yes. She filed the guardianship petition the same day she maxed out your credit cards. If the court had approved it, she could have pulled your life support and inherited everything legally. My sister hadn't just stolen my money. She'd tried to steal my life. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Paisley standing over my hospital bed, calculating how much my death was worth. The nurse found me at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, my pillow soaked with tears of rage. "Bad dreams?" she asked gently. "Bad family," I replied. Detective Morrison visited the next morning with updates that painted an even darker picture. Paisley had been in my apartment multiple times while I was unconscious, not just to get my wallet. "Security cameras show her removing documents from your filing cabinet," he explained. "Insurance policies, bank statements, your will. She also accessed your laptop and phone. For what? We're still investigating, but it appears she was deleting digital evidence and transferring money from your savings account. She'd moved $23,000 to an account under her name before the credit card charges even started." The scope of her betrayal kept expanding. This wasn't impulse shopping. This was premeditated financial murder. "There's something else," Morrison continued. "We found text messages between your sister and her fiancé discussing your condition. Beckham knew everything. He showed me printouts that made me sick." "Paisley, doctors say she might not wake up. Could be weeks or months." "Beckham, that's terrible, babe. But maybe it's a sign? Universe clearing the path for our future?" "Paisley, I've been thinking the same thing. She always acts like she's so much better than me." "Beckham, how much are we talking about total?" "Paisley, house is worth $340K, plus savings, investments, life insurance, probably close to $500,000. "Beckham, holy shit. That would solve all our problems." "Paisley, I know. Sometimes I think about what would happen if she just didn't wake up." "Beckham, don't say that out loud." "But yeah, I get it." I stared at the messages until the words blurred. My own sister had been praying for my death while planning her dream wedding with my money. "We're adding conspiracy charges," Morrison said, "and we'll be investigating whether they took any actions to interfere with your medical care." That afternoon, Beckham showed up at my hospital room. He'd somehow talked his way past security, probably using his family's connections. He still wore his wedding suit, but his tie was gone and his hair was disheveled. "This is all a misunderstanding," he said, closing the door behind him. "Paisley was just trying to help. She was scared and made bad decisions." I studied his face, handsome in a generic tech bro way, with perfect teeth and hollow eyes. "Did you know she filed for guardianship?" His pause told me everything. "She was protecting your assets," he said finally, "making sure nothing happened to them while you recovered. By spending them on your wedding? We needed to keep up appearances. My family has expectations." The audacity was breathtaking. Even caught red-handed, he was still lying. "Get out," I said quietly. "Look, we can work this out. My family has lawyers. Get out before I call security." He left, but not before muttering, "You always were selfish." The next week brought a parade of revelations. Forensic accountants found that Paisley had been stealing from me for months, using my information to open credit cards I didn't know about. She'd forged my signature on apartment lease applications for herself, listing me as a guarantor. She'd even filed a fraudulent tax return in my name and kept the refund. The guardianship paperwork was particularly chilling. She'd claimed I had diminished mental capacity due to substance abuse, and that she needed emergency powers to prevent me from making harmful financial decisions. She'd fabricated an entire narrative about my incompetence, complete with forged medical records. "She's been planning this for at least a year," Vivian explained during one of our meetings. "This level of fraud requires extensive preparation." "But why? She could have just asked me for help with the wedding. Because then you'd have maintained control. This way, she'd have gotten everything. Your money, your property, your entire life." The criminal case moved quickly. Paisley's bail was set at $100,000, which Beckham's family couldn't or wouldn't pay. She sat in county jail, still wearing her wedding dress for the first 3 days because no one brought her clothes. Local news picked up the story. Sister arrested at altar for stealing from coma patient. Became a viral sensation. The church tried to distance themselves from the scandal, but videos of her arrest had already spread across social media. I received dozens of messages from strangers sharing their own stories of family betrayal. Apparently, siblings stealing from hospitalized relatives was more common than I'd ever imagined. Dad finally visited after a week of silence. He looked older, smaller somehow, as if discovering his daughter's true nature had physically diminished him. "I don't understand how this happened," he said, slumping in the visitor's chair. "She was always the sweet one. Sweet doesn't steal $50,000 from her unconscious sister. She says you're exaggerating, that it was just a loan." "A loan? Did she ask permission? Did she sign any paperwork? Did she even tell me she was taking the money?" Dad's silence was answer enough. "She also filed papers to become my guardian so she could control my medical care," I continued. "Did she mention that part?" His face crumpled. "That's not possible." I showed him the legal documents, watched him read Paisley's sworn statement that I was mentally incompetent and financially irresponsible, watched him realize that his sweet daughter had been prepared to let me die for inheritance money. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "She's not the person you think she is, Dad. She's not the person any of us thought she was." The arraignment was a circus. Paisley appeared in an orange jumpsuit, her wedding makeup long gone, her hair unwashed and flat. She pled not guilty to all charges, but her lawyer, a public defender who looked overwhelmed, barely spoke. Beckham sat in the gallery with his parents, all of them maintaining careful distance from our family. His mother wore sunglasses indoors and kept checking her phone, probably monitoring social media coverage. During a recess, I overheard Beckham's father on his phone. "We need complete separation from this situation. Change the locks on the beach house and cancel her access to the country club. She's not our problem anymore." Even her meal ticket was abandoning her. The prosecutor outlined the charges: 17 counts of identity theft, 12 counts of credit card fraud, forgery, conspiracy, and attempted guardianship fraud. Each count carried potential prison time. The defendant systematically stole from a family member who was fighting for her life in the hospital. Assistant District Attorney Helena Merced explained to the judge. She forged documents, lied to courts, and attempted to gain legal control over the victim's life and death decisions. This represents one of the most callous betrayals we've seen. Paisley's lawyer argued for leniency, claiming emotional distress and family dysfunction. The judge wasn't impressed. "Bail remains at $100,000, she declared. "Trial date is set for 6 weeks from today." As they led Paisley back to her cell, she turned to look at me for the first time since her arrest. Her eyes held pure hatred. "This isn't over," she mouthed. But it was over. At least the part where I pretended we were family. Recovery was slower than expected. The brain injury left me with memory gaps and occasional dizzy spells. Physical therapy was exhausting, but necessary if I wanted to regain full mobility. The hardest part was learning to trust again. Every nurse, every visitor, every person with access to my room was a potential threat. My apartment had been compromised. Paisley still had keys, and Detective Morrison found evidence she'd been living there part-time while I was hospitalized. She'd moved her clothes into my closet, used my laptop to apply for more credit cards, and even brought Beckham over for romantic dinners using my dishes and furniture. I hired a security company to change all the locks and install cameras. I closed every bank account and credit card, opened new ones with different institutions, and put fraud alerts on everything. I felt like a witness protection participant hiding from my own family. The preliminary hearing revealed even more disturbing details. Phone records showed Paisley had been calling my workplace while I was unconscious, claiming to be me, and asking about my health insurance benefits and life insurance policies. She wanted to know how much she'd receive if you died, Detective Morrison explained. She specifically asked about accidental death coverage and how long it would take to process claims. She'd also contacted my ex-boyfriend Garrett, telling him I was unlikely to recover and asking if he wanted to say goodbye. Garrett, being a decent human being, had immediately driven to the hospital, only to find me awake and alert, with no knowledge of any phone call. "I thought it was weird that she was handling your affairs," he told me when I called to thank him. "She always seemed jealous of your independence, jealous enough to kill me for it, apparently." The conversation with Garrett sparked a realization. I called my college roommate Zara, my former colleague Dimitri, and my neighbor Opal. Paisley had contacted all of them with sob stories about my deteriorating condition and subtle requests for financial help with my mounting medical bills. She'd been working multiple angles, using my near-death experience to scam money from everyone who cared about me. Zara had sent $500. Dimitri contributed $300. Opal organized a meal train and collected $800 from neighbors. None of this money had gone toward my medical care. It had funded Paisley's wedding preparations. The trial approached with mounting evidence. Beckham agreed to cooperate with prosecutors in exchange for reduced charges, providing text messages, emails, and recorded phone calls that documented their conspiracy. In one particularly damning recording, Paisley discussed hiring someone to accidentally disconnect my ventilator. "It would just look like equipment failure," she said. "Happens all the time in hospitals." "That's really dark, babe," Beckham replied. "But if it happened naturally." "Exactly. And then we could have the wedding we deserve instead of this budget bullshit." Listening to that recording in Vivian's office, I finally understood the full scope of what my sister had planned. She hadn't just wanted my money, she'd wanted me dead. "This changes everything," Vivian said. "We're talking about attempted murder now." The DA agreed to upgrade the charges. Paisley would face life in prison if convicted on all counts. Mom finally visited 2 days before the trial began. She looked terrible, thin, shaky, her hair unwashed and her clothes wrinkled. The stress of having both daughters involved in a criminal case had pushed her back into drinking. "I don't know what to believe anymore," she said, sitting as far from my bed as possible. "Paisley says you're lying about everything." I'm lying? She stole $50,000 from me while I was in a coma, Mom. That's not an opinion. That's a fact with bank records and security footage. She says you always hated her, that you're using this to destroy her life. I stared at my mother, this woman who'd failed to protect either of her daughters in different ways. Play the recording, I said. What recording? I pulled out my phone and played the audio of Paisley discussing how to disconnect my ventilator. Mom's face went white as she listened to her sweet daughter casually planning my murder. When it ended, she sat in stunned silence. She was going to kill me, Mom. Your daughter was going to kill your other daughter for money. Mom started crying, big, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. I failed you both, she whispered. I was so drunk, so absent. I didn't see what was happening. You didn't make her a sociopath, I said. But you did enable her. What do I do now? You testify truthfully at her trial, and then you get sober. The trial lasted 8 days. I testified on day 3, walking the jury through the timeline of discovery, waking up to fraud alerts, finding my apartment violated, learning about the guardianship petition. Paisley's defense attorney tried to portray her as a loving sister overwhelmed by family crisis, but the evidence was too substantial. Bank records don't lie. Security footage doesn't have emotions. Recorded phone calls planning murder don't show sisterly concern. Beckham's testimony was devastating. He detailed their conversations about my condition, their relief when doctors said I might not recover, their excitement about inheriting my assets. He broke down crying when prosecutors played his voice saying, "Sometimes I wish she'd just die already. I never meant it," he sobbed on the witness stand. I was just stressed about money. Stressed enough to plan her death? The prosecutor asked. We weren't actually going to do anything. It was just fantasy. Fantasy that included researching how to disconnect life support equipment. Beckham's silence condemned them both. The most shocking testimony came from Dr. Cornelius Hammond, my neurologist. He'd noticed irregularities in my care that made more sense now. Someone had been asking detailed questions about the patient's life support systems, he explained. Which machines were essential, which could be safely disconnected, how long it would take for alarms to sound. Who was asking these questions? The patient's sister, claiming she needed to understand her condition. In retrospect, it seems she was gathering information for other purposes. Dr. Hammond also revealed that someone had attempted to change my emergency contact information and medical power of attorney while I was unconscious. The sister presented documents claiming she'd been designated as healthcare proxy. When we requested verification, she became agitated and left. Paisley had been systematically positioning herself to control every aspect of my life and death. On day 6, the prosecution played the wedding venue security footage. It showed Paisley and Beckham touring the property, discussing decoration plans, and specifically mentioning that the bride's sister wouldn't be attending. Why won't she be there? The venue coordinator asked. Family issues. Paisley replied with a smile. She's very sick. Probably won't make it. The coordinator looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be. Beckham laughed. Some people just aren't meant to be part of your story. The jury watched this exchange with visible disgust. Several members shook their heads. Paisley finally took the stand on day 7, against her lawyer's advice. She was visibly nervous, fidgeting with her hands and speaking too quickly. I love my sister, she began. Everything I did was to help her. Stealing $50,000 was helping her? The prosecutor asked. I was managing her affairs while she recovered. Without her knowledge or consent, she was unconscious. Someone had to make decisions. Including the decision to plan her death? That's not what happened. The prosecutor played the ventilator recording again. Paisley's voice filled the courtroom, discussing how to accidentally kill me. That was taken out of context, she said weakly. What context makes planning your sister's murder acceptable? I was upset. I said things I didn't mean. You researched hospital equipment. You asked doctors about life support procedures. You filed false guardianship papers. These aren't words, Ms. Westbrook. These are actions. Paisley broke down completely, sobbing and screaming that I'd ruined her life. She always got everything, she wailed. The good grades, the good job, the money, the respect. What did I get? Nothing. She owed me this. Her mask had finally slipped. The jury saw who she really was. A bitter, envious woman who felt entitled to my life. The defense's closing argument was pathetic. Paisley's lawyer essentially asked for mercy based on mental health issues and family dysfunction. He couldn't dispute the evidence, so he tried to minimize the impact. The prosecution's closing was methodical and damning. Helena Merced walked the jury through every crime, every lie, every step of Paisley's plan to steal my life. This wasn't a desperate sister making bad decisions in a crisis, she concluded. This was a calculated predator who saw opportunity in her sister's near-death experience. She stole money, property, and dignity. She attempted to steal life itself. Justice demands accountability. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all counts. Paisley collapsed when the verdicts were read. Her lawyer caught her arm, but she was beyond consolation. 34 separate convictions, each carrying significant prison time. Sentencing was scheduled for the following month. I felt hollow watching her breakdown. This was my sister, the person I'd shared a childhood with, protected from bullies, helped with homework. Somewhere along the way, love had curdled into resentment, and resentment had metastasized into murderous greed. Dad approached me after the verdict. I'm sorry, he said simply, for everything. I know. What happens now? She goes to prison. We try to heal. Can you forgive her? I considered the question. Forgiveness implied the possibility of reconciliation, of rebuilding trust. But how do you forgive someone who planned your death? I can let go of the anger, I said finally, but I can't pretend she's still my sister. The sentencing hearing was smaller, just family, lawyers, and a few reporters. Paisley wore an orange jumpsuit and looked completely defeated. Her hair had grown out, showing dark roots beneath the blonde highlights she'd maintained for Beckham. Speaking on her own behalf, she offered a hollow apology. I made terrible mistakes. she said, reading from prepared notes. I let stress and fear cloud my judgment. I never intended to hurt anyone. Even her remorse felt calculated. I was allowed to give a victim impact statement. I'd written and rewritten it dozens of times, trying to capture the scope of betrayal without sounding vindictive. Your Honor, I began. My sister didn't just steal money from me. She stole my sense of safety, my ability to trust, my faith in family bonds. While I was fighting for my life, she was planning my death. While doctors worked to save me, she researched how to kill me. While I trusted her with my emergency contacts, she used that access to violate every boundary. I looked directly at Paisley. I will recover from the car accident. I will rebuild my finances. But I will never recover from learning that my own sister saw me as worth more dead than alive. Judge Franklin Ashworth had presided over thousands of cases, but even he seemed shaken by the evidence. Ms. Westbrook, he addressed Paisley, I have rarely encountered such calculated cruelty disguised as family concern. You exploited your sister's vulnerability at her most helpless moment. You turned love into a weapon and trust into a tool. He sentenced her to 27 years in state prison, with possibility of parole after 18 years. Paisley would be 46 when she first became eligible for release. Beckham received 5 years for conspiracy and fraud. His family had already frozen his trust fund and removed him from company leadership. His tech startup folded within weeks of his arrest. The civil case was straightforward. I sued for treble damages, 3 times the stolen amount, plus legal fees and emotional distress. Paisley's only assets were her car and some jewelry. Everything else had belonged to Beckham's family. I won a judgment for $297,000, knowing I'd never collect most of it. Recovery took months. Physical therapy helped with the injuries, but psychological therapy was harder. I developed hypervigilance around family gatherings, financial documents, and medical settings. The therapist, Dr. Evelyn Pierce, specialized in family trauma. Betrayal by intimate partners is uniquely damaging, she explained. Your brain formed protective associations with your sister from childhood. Learning that she's dangerous requires rewiring fundamental assumptions about safety. I had nightmares about waking up in different hospitals, with different relatives holding my wallet and my power of attorney. In my dreams, they all smiled while discussing how much I was worth dead. The fear is normal, Dr. Pierce assured me, but it's not permanent. I started dating again 6 months after the trial. Nothing serious, just coffee meetings and casual dinners with men who had no knowledge of my sister or her crimes. It felt good to be seen as a complete person, rather than a victim. 8 months later, I moved across the country. San Diego offered sunshine, ocean air, and 3,000 miles of distance from my past. I bought a small condo with reinforced locks and a security system that monitored every entry point. My new job at a medical device company paid well and offered excellent benefits. My colleagues knew nothing about my history beyond family issues back east. I preferred it that way. Dad called occasionally, usually drunk and maudlin. I miss having both my daughters, he'd say. You never had both daughters, I'd reply. You had one daughter and one predator. She's still family. No, she's not. I blocked his number after he suggested I visit Paisley in prison for closure. Mom got sober 8 months after the trial. She joined AA, found a therapist, and sent me a formal amends letter, taking responsibility for her role in enabling Paisley's behavior. I was an absent parent who forced you to be the responsible one, she wrote. I failed to see warning signs because I was too drunk to see anything clearly. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that I see the truth now. We talked once a month, cautiously rebuilding something that resembled a relationship. She never mentioned visiting Paisley or maintaining contact with her. Some bridges burned completely. 2 years after the trial, Vivian called with news. Your sister filed an appeal, she said, claims ineffective counsel and prosecutorial misconduct. Will it work? Unlikely. The evidence was overwhelming, and her conviction was supported by physical evidence, recorded confessions, and multiple witnesses. This is probably a Hail Mary attempt. The appeal was denied 6 months later. Paisley's conviction stood. Around the same time, I received a letter from her, prison mail forwarded through my lawyer since I'd never given her my new address. Dear sister, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know that I've been thinking about everything that happened. Prison gives you a lot of time to think. I was wrong. Not just about the money, but about everything. I was jealous of your life, your success, your independence. Instead of working to build my own life, I tried to tear down yours. I can't undo what I did. I can't give you back the security I stole or repair the trust I broke. I can only tell you that I understand now why you made the choices you did. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve consideration, but I want you to know that I see who I was, and I hate that person. I hope you're building a life that makes you happy. You deserve peace. Paisley. I read the letter twice, looking for manipulation or hidden agenda, but it seemed genuine. A broken woman finally confronting the scope of her destruction. I never replied. Some wounds are too deep for words to heal. Some betrayals destroy the foundation that relationships are built on. Paisley could spend the next 18 years writing apologies, but she couldn't undo the moment she chose my death over my life. 3 years after moving to San Diego, I met Wesley at a beach volleyball game. He was kind, funny, and completely uninterested in my financial status or family history. When I finally told him about Paisley's crimes, he listened without judgment. That must have been terrifying, he said simply. It was. Do you miss her? I thought about it honestly. I miss who I thought she was. But that person was never real. Wesley nodded. My brother stole my identity once. Nothing as serious as your situation, but I understand how family betrayal feels different. Different how? Strangers are supposed to hurt you. Family is supposed to protect you. When that reverses, it breaks something fundamental. We married 18 months later, a small ceremony on the beach with friends I'd made in California. No family from my side, just people who knew the person I'd become rather than the trauma I'd survived. Our wedding cost $3,000 total, Simple flowers, local catering, and a dress I bought off the rack. It was everything Paisley's wedding would have been if she'd paid for it herself. Understated, genuine, and focused on commitment rather than spectacle. The most beautiful part was knowing that every dollar spent was money I'd earned, saved, and chosen to invest in my own happiness. Wesley and I honeymooned in New Zealand, hiking mountains and exploring cities where nobody knew my name or my story. For 2 weeks, I was just a tourist taking pictures and eating local food. No hospital rooms, no courtrooms, no lawyers or detectives or journalists. Just peace. 5 years after the trial, I received notification that Paisley was eligible for a parole hearing. As the victim, I had the right to attend or submit a statement opposing her release. I wrote a letter to the parole board, to whom it may concern. Paisley Westbrook committed crimes that went beyond theft or fraud. She exploited my medical vulnerability to steal my resources and plan my death. She violated every boundary of family trust and human decency. While I hope she has used her time in prison for genuine reflection and growth, I believe she remains a danger to vulnerable people, particularly family members who might trust her with sensitive information. I request that her parole be denied and that she serve her full sentence. Thank you for your consideration. The parole board agreed. Paisley would remain in prison for at least 3 more years before becoming eligible again. Wesley and I bought a house with a mortgage I could afford and furniture we chose together. We adopted a dog named Pepper, who greets me at the door every evening as if I've been gone for years instead of hours. We host dinner parties for friends, travel when we can afford it, and live quietly without drama or crisis. This is what Paisley never understood. Happiness doesn't require destroying someone else's life. Success doesn't demand someone else's failure. Love doesn't need theft to sustain itself. I still have security cameras and redundant locks. I still review bank statements obsessively and maintain separate accounts Wesley doesn't have access to. Some caution is healthy after surviving predatory family, but I also have trust again. Carefully given, constantly earned, but genuine nonetheless. 6 years after the trial, Dad died of liver failure. His drinking had accelerated after losing one daughter to prison and the other to justified estrangement. I attended his funeral, a small service with Aunt Theodora, some work colleagues, and a handful of old friends. Paisley was granted compassionate leave to attend under heavy guard. She wore civilian clothes instead of prison uniform, but the handcuffs and ankle monitor made her status clear. We didn't speak. I watched her cry over Dad's casket. Genuine tears for a relationship she'd destroyed through her own choices. She'd lost everything pursuing money that would have been inherited naturally if she'd simply waited and remained family. After the burial, she approached me hesitantly. "Can we talk?" she asked. "No. No." I walked away before she could finish. Some conversations serve no purpose beyond reopening wounds. Aunt Theodora cornered me at the reception. "You're being awfully hard on your sister," she said. "Family should forgive family. Family shouldn't steal from family either. She made mistakes. She planned my murder, Aunt Theodora, not mistakes. Attempted murder." Aunt Theodora, who had suggested I'd probably die anyway, had no response to that. I left my childhood hometown after Dad's funeral and never returned. Wesley and I celebrated our 3rd wedding anniversary by taking a cooking class together. We laughed as we burned our first attempt at paella and succeeded brilliantly with our second. That evening, we ate dinner on our patio while Pepper chased fireflies in the yard. "Any regrets?" Wesley asked. "About what?" "Having your sister arrested, cutting contact with family, moving across the country." I considered the question seriously. 3 years of marriage had taught me to trust his genuine curiosity about my thoughts and feelings. "None," I said finally. "Every choice I made protected my life and my future. Even when it was hard? Especially when it was hard." Wesley reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm proud of you," he said, "for surviving everything and building this life. We built this life, you built the foundation. I just added to the structure." That night, lying beside my husband in our own home with our dog sleeping at the foot of our bed, I realized something important. Paisley had failed. She'd tried to steal my money, my property, my health, and my life, but she couldn't steal my resilience, my capacity for love, or my ability to build something beautiful from broken pieces. I was 34, happily married, financially stable, and surrounded by people who valued me for who I was rather than what I owned. The life I'd built was mine entirely, earned through my own work, protected by my own choices, shared with people who respected rather than exploited me. Paisley was 32, serving 27 years in state prison for attempting to murder her sister for inheritance money. She'd lost her freedom, her reputation, her relationship, and her family. Everything she'd wanted to steal from me, she destroyed for herself. Justice wasn't just about punishment. Justice was about restoration, returning to victims what criminals had tried to take. Paisley couldn't return my sense of safety or family trust, but I'd found safety in different ways and built family from chosen connections rather than blood obligations. 7 years after the trial, I received a call from Detective Morrison. "Your sister is up for parole again," he said. "Thought you should know." "Are they likely to grant it?" "Doubtful. She's had disciplinary issues in prison, fighting with other inmates, contraband possession, attempting to manipulate guards. The pattern suggests she hasn't changed much." I wasn't surprised. People who plan their sister's murder for money don't typically develop empathy through incarceration. "Will you submit another statement?" Morrison asked. "Absolutely." This time, I included documentation of Paisley's prison behavior, emphasizing that her crimes reflected character rather than circumstance. The parole board agreed again. Wesley and I started trying for children around this time. The process was more complicated than expected. My brain injury had caused hormonal irregularities that required medical management. But after 8 months of fertility treatments, I became pregnant. The fear was immediate and overwhelming. What if something happened to me during pregnancy or delivery? What if I became vulnerable again, dependent on others for care and decision-making? What if there were people in my life who might exploit that vulnerability? Dr. Pierce helped me work through these anxieties. "You're not the same person who was hospitalized 7 years ago," she reminded me. "You have different support systems, different legal protections, different awareness of warning signs. But what if? There will always be what ifs. You can't eliminate risk entirely, but you can prepare sensibly and then choose to live fully." I created detailed advance directives specifying my medical wishes and designating Wesley as my sole healthcare proxy. I established a trust that would protect our child's inheritance from any future predatory relatives. I updated all passwords, security systems, and legal documents. Most importantly, I surrounded myself with people who had proven their trustworthiness over years of consistent behavior. Wesley was incredible throughout the pregnancy. He attended every doctor's appointment, read parenting books, and began converting our spare room into a nursery. When I had nightmares about someone stealing our baby, he held me until the fear passed. "No one can take our family from us," he promised. "We're building something different than what you grew up with." Our daughter Ivy was born healthy and perfect on a rainy Tuesday morning in October. Wesley cried when he held her for the first time. I cried when she gripped my finger with her tiny hand. I'd created life instead of having mine taken. I'd built a family based on love rather than exploitation. That night, as I held Ivy while she slept, I thought about Paisley. She was 35 now, still in prison, still alone. She'd chosen money over family and lost both. I'd chosen family over money and found both. The difference wasn't luck or circumstance. The difference was character. 18 months later, Wesley received a promotion that required relocating to Portland. We sold our San Diego house and bought a larger one near good schools and safe neighborhoods. I found work at a medical research facility that offered flexible hours for working parents. Ivy thrived in her new environment. She was curious, fearless, and completely secure in her parents' love. Watching her explore the world with confidence reminded me how important safety is for development. I'd never had that childhood security. I'd been protecting myself and others from early adolescence, hyper-aware of threats and danger. Ivy would grow up different. Protected but not paranoid, cautious but not fearful. On her second birthday, we hosted a party with neighborhood families and friends from work. Kids ran through our backyard while parents chatted over coffee and cake. It was ordinary, pleasant, and completely free of drama. This was the life Paisley could have had if she'd chosen differently. She could have been the aunt who spoiled Ivy with inappropriate gifts and taught her bad words. She could have been part of birthday parties and holiday celebrations. Instead, she was a cautionary tale I'd someday have to explain to my daughter. 10 years after the trial, I received final notification that Paisley had been denied parole for the third time. She wouldn't be eligible again until she'd served at least 20 years of her sentence. By then, Ivy would be 8 years old. I tried to imagine explaining Paisley's existence to her. Mommy had a sister who made very bad choices, I might say. She's in prison because she hurt people. Will I ever meet her? No, sweetheart. Some people aren't safe to be around even when they're family. That's sad. Yes, it is. But it's also why we're careful about who we trust and why we treat people with kindness. Wesley and I discussed how much to tell Ivy about my history. Too little information might leave her vulnerable to manipulation. Too much might make her fearful of family relationships. We'll tell her age-appropriate truths, we decided. That some people pretend to care while actually wanting to hurt others. That family relationships require mutual respect and honesty. That she should never trust anyone who asks her to keep secrets from us. At 37, I was financially secure, emotionally stable, and surrounded by genuine love. I owned a home, had meaningful work, and was raising a daughter who would grow up understanding both trust and healthy boundaries. Paisley was 35, serving year 10 of a 27-year sentence for attempting to murder her sister for inheritance money. She'd traded everything real for something imaginary and lost both. The irony was perfect. In trying to steal my life, she'd destroyed her own. 15 years after the trial, Portland's local newspaper ran a feature about family financial crimes. The reporter found my case and requested an interview about long-term impacts of sibling betrayal. I agreed to speak anonymously. The crime itself was devastating, I told her, but the ongoing effects are more subtle. I had to rebuild my entire concept of family and safety. Do you have any contact with your sister now? None. She made choices that ended our relationship permanently. Some people believe families should forgive each other regardless of circumstances. Some people haven't had family members plan their murder for money. What would you want other families to know about preventing this type of crime? I thought carefully about the answer. Trust requires evidence, not just blood relationship. Pay attention to patterns of behavior rather than promises. And remember that people who feel entitled to your resources will often start with small violations before escalating to larger ones. Any final thoughts? Surviving this taught me that you can't control other people's choices, but you can control your response. I chose healing over hatred, building over bitterness. Those choices gave me a life I'm genuinely happy with. The article was published 6 months later. I received dozens of emails from other people whose families had stolen from them during medical crises, job losses, or other vulnerable periods. Apparently, predatory relatives are more common than anyone wants to acknowledge. One woman's mother had stolen her child's college fund while she was deployed overseas. A man's brother had forged his signature to refinance his house while he was in rehabilitation for addiction. A daughter's father had used her credit cards to fund his gambling addiction while she was recovering from cancer treatment. The pattern was always the same: vulnerable person, trusted family member, escalating theft, and eventual devastating betrayal. I started volunteering with a local organization that helped families navigate financial abuse. Once a month, I spoke with people whose relatives had exploited medical crises, addiction recoveries, or other situations that required temporary dependence. It's not about the money, I'd tell them. It's about the violation of trust. Healing requires acknowledging that some relationships can't be repaired. Many struggled with the social pressure to forgive family members. But she's my mother. He's my only brother. They're all the family I have left. Family doesn't steal from you during emergencies, I'd reply. People who exploit your vulnerability aren't family in any meaningful sense. Ivy started kindergarten that year. She was bright, social, and completely unaware that her extended family consisted entirely of chosen friends rather than blood relatives. Her world included Wesley's parents, who visited quarterly and sent birthday cards. It included our neighbors, who hosted barbecues and helped with emergency childcare. It included my colleagues, who became honorary aunts and uncles. She had all the love and support that family should provide, just from sources I'd carefully vetted over years of consistent behavior. Wesley's brother moved to Portland for work and became a regular presence in our lives. Uncle Cameron taught Ivy to play chess and took her hiking on weekends. He was everything an uncle should be: safe, fun, and genuinely invested in her well-being. Watching Ivy with Cameron reminded me what healthy family relationships looked like. They teased each other, shared inside jokes, and respected each other's boundaries. He never asked to borrow money, never pressured her to keep secrets, never made her feel responsible for his emotional needs. This was the family model I wanted Ivy to understand as normal. 20 years after the trial, I received notification that Paisley had died in prison, heart failure at 37. She'd been serving year 15 of her 27-year sentence. The notification came from the Department of Corrections, not family. There was no funeral, no memorial service, no obituary. She'd alienated everyone who might have grieved her death. I felt nothing. Not relief, not sadness, not closure. Just acknowledgement that a chapter of my life was finally, definitively finished. Wesley found me reading the letter in our kitchen. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Paisley died." He sat beside me, taking my hand. "How do you feel about that?" "Empty. Not sad, not happy, just empty." "That makes sense. She stopped being your sister long before she died." I nodded. The woman who'd planned my murder had been a stranger wearing my sister's face. Her death didn't change anything about my life or my relationships. Should we tell Ivy? I considered it. She was 15 now, old enough to understand complex family dynamics. Eventually, when it's relevant to conversations about trust and boundaries. What will you say? That I had a sister who made choices that destroyed our relationship, that she died young because she never learned to build anything healthy. Will you go to any kind of service? No, there's nothing there for me to grieve. That evening, I called Mom. She'd been sober for 21 years and had built a quiet life in assisted living. We talked monthly but maintained careful emotional distance. "I heard about Paisley," she said. "How?" "The prison called me as next of kin. They needed someone to claim her body." "Are you going to?" A long pause. "I don't know. She was my daughter, but she was also a stranger." "You don't owe her anything, Mom. Not after what she did." "I know, but it feels wrong to let the state dispose of her like garbage. She chose to become garbage when she planned my murder." Another pause. "You're right. I keep thinking about the little girl she used to be. That little girl grew up to be a monster. You can mourn who you thought she was without claiming responsibility for who she became." Mom eventually arranged for cremation, but no services. Paisley's ashes went unclaimed. Ivy graduated high school with honors and acceptance letters to 6 universities. We celebrated with a party that included all the family that mattered, chosen friends who'd supported her through years of growth and discovery. She decided to study psychology, inspired by conversations about trauma recovery and family dynamics. "I want to help people like you did," she told me. "People whose families hurt them. That's important work," I replied. "Just remember that healing others can't heal your own past." "I know, but understanding dysfunction helps prevent repeating it." Smart kid. She'd learned lessons at 17 that had taken me decades to understand. At 42, I looked back on 25 years of life after near-death and attempted murder. I'd built a career, a marriage, and a family. I'd bought homes, traveled internationally, and contributed to my community. I'd loved deeply, trusted carefully, and protected what mattered. Paisley had traded all of those possibilities for $47,000 and 27 years in prison. She'd died poor, alone, and forgotten by everyone who should have loved her. The arithmetic of our choices couldn't be clearer. Wesley and I renewed our wedding vows on our 20th anniversary. Ivy, now 18 and home from college, served as our witness. The ceremony was simple, just the 3 of us on the beach where we'd honeymooned 20 years earlier. 20 years of building something beautiful together, the officiant said. 20 years of choosing each other every day, Wesley replied. 20 years of proving that love is stronger than fear, I added. Afterward, we had dinner at a restaurant overlooking the ocean. Ivy raised her glass of sparkling cider. "To parents who taught me that family is about choice, not obligation." "To a daughter who makes us proud every day," Wesley responded. "To surviving everything that tried to destroy us and building something better from the pieces," I concluded. We clinked glasses as the sun set over water that stretched beyond the horizon. The future looked limitless. Ivy graduated college with a psychology degree and immediately entered graduate school for family therapy. Her thesis focused on financial abuse between relatives, research that would help thousands of people recognize and escape predatory family relationships. "You gave me the topic," she told me, "but also the perspective. I know what healthy family looks like because you created it." She was 24 when she got engaged to Marcus, a social worker who specialized in childhood trauma. Their relationship was everything mine with Wesley had been, built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine affection. At their engagement party, Marcus pulled me aside. "Thank you for raising someone who knows how to love without fear," he said. "Thank you for being someone worthy of that love." I was 45 at their wedding, watching my daughter marry someone who would protect and cherish her. Wesley walked her down the aisle because he'd been her father in every way that mattered. My mother attended, sober, stable, and proud of the woman she'd helped create despite her early failures. The wedding cost $12,000 total, paid for entirely by money Ivy and Marcus had saved together. Simple flowers, local catering, and a dress she'd chosen because she loved it rather than because it impressed anyone. It was everything Paisley's wedding would have been if she'd learned to value love over spectacle. During her reception speech, Ivy thanked the family who'd raised her. My parents taught me that family is defined by love, not by genetics. They showed me what commitment looks like when it's chosen, rather than obligated. They proved that you can survive terrible things and still build beautiful lives. She looked directly at me. Mom survived someone who was supposed to love her trying to kill her. She turned that betrayal into wisdom, that trauma into strength, and that isolation into chosen family. I am who I am because she chose healing over hatred. The room erupted in applause. Wesley squeezed my hand. You did that, he whispered. You built all of this. I looked around the reception, at friends who'd become family, at a daughter who would break generational cycles, at a son-in-law who understood the value of the woman he was marrying. Paisley had tried to steal my life and ended up giving me something better. Her betrayal had taught me to choose family carefully, love deliberately, and protect fiercely. She'd died alone and forgotten. I was surrounded by people who would grieve my loss and celebrate my memory. The difference was 25 years of different choices. Ivy's first child, my granddaughter Elena, was born when I was 47. Holding her in the hospital room, I thought about cycles and patterns, about what gets passed down and what gets transformed. Elena would grow up in a family that valued honesty over harmony, boundaries over blood ties, and chosen love over obligated relationships. She'd learn early that trust must be earned and that people who exploit vulnerability aren't worth maintaining connection with. She'd also learn that surviving betrayal doesn't require becoming bitter, that losing family doesn't mean losing love, and that the best relationships are built rather than inherited. She's beautiful, I whispered to Ivy as Elena slept in my arms. She's safe, Ivy replied. That's what matters most. Safe. That single word encompassed everything I'd built in 27 years of life after attempted murder. Not just physical safety, but emotional security, financial protection, and the deep knowledge that the people in our lives wanted the best for us, rather than the most from us. Paisley had tried to take my safety and ended up teaching me how to create it. The irony was perfect. On my 50th birthday, Wesley threw a surprise party with 50 guests, one for each year of life I'd managed to build and protect. Friends from every chapter of my adult life came together to celebrate survival, resilience, and the family I'd chosen. 50 years of being too stubborn to die, Wesley joked in his toast. 50 years of learning that the best revenge is living well, I replied. Ivy presented me with a photo album documenting 27 years of chosen family moments. Birthday parties, holiday celebrations, graduations, weddings, and quiet everyday memories that proved life could be beautiful after betrayal. The final page was a picture of Elena sleeping peacefully in her crib, completely unaware that her existence represented victory over people who'd tried to prevent it. To the next 50 years, Ivy said, raising her glass. To the family we've built and the safety we've created, Marcus added. To surviving everything and building something better, Wesley concluded. To choosing love over fear, every single day, I finished. We drank to all of it. The survival, the building, the choosing, the loving. In the distance, I could hear Elena crying softly, ready for her evening feeding. Ivy excused herself to tend to her daughter, and I watched through the window as she nursed the baby with complete confidence in her ability to provide safety and love. 3 generations of women who'd learned to protect what mattered most. Paisley's plan had failed spectacularly. Instead of inheriting my life, she'd given me the motivation to build something unbreakable. Instead of destroying my future, she'd taught me how to create one worth protecting. Instead of taking everything from me, she'd shown me what was truly valuable. 27 years later, I was surrounded by chosen family, financial security, and the deep satisfaction of a life well lived despite attempts to prevent it. She was remembered only as a cautionary tale about the cost of choosing greed over love. Justice wasn't just about punishment. Justice was about living so well that the people who tried to destroy you became irrelevant to your happiness. I'd achieved that justice completely. The sun set over another ordinary, beautiful day in a life that someone had tried to steal, but couldn't. Tomorrow would bring more of the same. Love, safety, and the quiet satisfaction of surviving everything and building something better from the pieces. Paisley had failed. I had won. The arithmetic was simple and the verdict was final.